Welcome to the Hey Docs podcast with your host, Jill Allen. Today, we're joined by a special guest, Matt Kroeker from Bank of America, to discuss financial strategies for young orthodontists who are thinking about practice ownership. We'll cover everything from preparing for loans to choosing the right banking partner for long-term success, plus tips for managing construction costs and keeping your project on task. Stick around for some expert advice on building a trusted team of partners to ensure your practice thrives. Let's jump in. This episode was brought to you by My Ortho VA. Hey docs, is your team overwhelmed by endless admin tasks? Let My Ortho VA throw you a lifeline. With expert HIPAA-trained virtual assistants specializing in orthodontics, My Ortho VA helps streamline everything from billing and insurance to phone support and reporting. Right now, over 100 VAs are supporting 58 practices nationwide, cutting staffing costs by up to 60%. No onboarding fees, no long-term contracts. Just a simple, cost-effective way to transform your operations and focus on patient satisfaction. Brace for growth. Visit myorthova.com to interview your next best hire and align your practice for success. Matt, I am so excited to have
Jill.
you on Hey Docs. Good to see you.
It's great to see you. It's great to be here. I'm so excited.
Yes, it is about time. I know we've been planning this for a while, and I've been looking forward to our conversation today. So one of the ways I love to start out Hey Docs is to have my guests just tell a little bit about themselves, and for you, your role at Bank of America.
Sure. Yeah. So Matt Kroeker, been with Bank of America almost 15 years and have had a couple of different roles, but all of which dealing with and helping small business owners across the country. Started off as a banker. I've managed a team of bankers. I was on our real estate team, and now all I do all day, every day in Colorado is help dentists, orthodontists make their practice dreams happen. So it's a very small piece of a very big bank, but it's something we've done for a long time, almost 30 years, and we do a pretty darn good job at it. So it's very fun.
Yeah, and I'm going to say it is I value you and your role at the bank, and you are definitely my go-to when I've got docs that are like, okay, I'm ready. All right, sure. I know who you're going to talk to. And I really appreciate that. Even though you're in Colorado, you definitely help facilitate getting everybody where they need to be in front of who they need to. So as we start off today, these are always some of my favorite podcasts to do, is to really dive in and talk about things that really impact our startup doctors, because that's where I live, and I love just this space. And I know you do too. So where I want to go today is just have you talk a little bit about things that younger doctors should be thinking about when they are going, all right, I think it's time. They're going to do an acquisition, but really my heart is in doing a startup, practice ownership. And I'd love it if you can break it down from your perspective as a banker and what Bank of America is looking for, and how doctors set themselves up for success in preparing themselves for that loan process.
Yeah, sure. And one of my favorite things to do is going into later dental school, early residency, and having these discussions that they're not the sexiest things to talk about, but ultimately, if owning a practice at some point in your life is a priority, then we need to make sure that you're not making decisions early on that are going to impact you later. Because at the end of the day, everybody for the most part is coming out of school with debt. School has gotten so expensive it's always been expensive, but the last 5 years, we understand they're going to have student loans. You're going to have a car payment, a mortgage payment, whatever that looks like. But and the bank knows that. So there's no qualms about, and I have these discussions all the time. I don't know if I can do it because I have debt. It really boils down to, what does that monthly payment look like versus, do you have debt or do you not have debt? And student loans are one thing. So and I'm certainly not the expert on what type of plan that they should be signing up for, but I do know there's a big difference in having a $3,000 a month payment versus a $1,200 a month payment. Mm-hmm. I talk to people all day, every day. Hey, I have $300,000, $400,000 in student loan debt. That's fine. Really, the thing I need to know is, what plan are you on and what does that payment look like? And then same thing, go buy a house, go buy a car. But to own or start a practice, there's a difference between going and buying $1 million house because you're making great money and going to buy a $500,000 condo. Those are very vastly different payments.
Yeah.
I had one this week where we had a doctor that went and bought a $100,000 Tesla last year, and I regret it now. And we're having that discussion. Not that he needs to go sell his car, but that is something that payment's going to impact what the cash flow looks like. And really, because all the bank's looking at is based on the thousands of doctors that we help every single year, we have projections of what year 1, 2, 3, 4 are going to look like. So can those payments make sense and make sure it sets them up for success in those early years when that's the toughest time to get a business up and running?
Yeah, for sure. And I have a lot of these discussions as well with doctors, and just trying to, I always say, because that is their big concern. Oh, I've got student loan debt, or oh, I've got this or that. And I'm always saying, try and keep your revolving debt down as much as you can. Make sure you've got a certain amount of money in your savings account, and just don't go nutso.
Yeah, exactly.
You may be making good money at that associateship job. That can change. And when we're getting ready to do a startup, we want to just make sure that you're looking favorable to the bank so that we can kick that off.
Yeah.
So that kind of leads me into my next question. And I think especially now, I always say to my doctors, it's not that it's going to be that hard to get the money, because I think as a whole, unless you got some major skeleton in your closet or something, you're going to get the money. And I almost joke sometimes, you're going to hate this. I'll say it's candy on Halloween. You're going to get it. You're not going to have to work very hard to get that money, as long as you fall into the basic parameters and there isn't some major out there. I have a lot of docs that get, really hung up on sometimes the details, like the rate of our loan. And I think you and I can say, especially now, it's definitely been this roller coaster. I've been doing this for 18 years now, and where interest rates were in 2006, 7, and 8 to where they were through COVID to where they're at now, really, when you look at it, we really aren't that much different. It's just at different points when we come into this, what that's going to look like. And I'd love it if you can talk about that a little bit, because I know I have my views and, what I'll tell doctors a little bit, but although it's important, I think it's something that we don't want to get so hung up on that it doesn't move us forward with our loan.
Sure.
And I'm wondering if you can just unpack that a little bit for us, and really what should we really be focusing on, and how big of a role does that play?
Yeah, and I think it's a great situation, because to your point, and I work for a bank that should be in these conversations, but ultimately there are enough banks fighting for the business of these doctors that are going to be successful, that they're going to get a great rate. So that kind of goes out the window with, yes, you're going to talk to 2 or 3 or however many, you're going to get a great deal, but it's what else is being set up for your success. And so I think it's a little bit twofold. So one, and I hear you talk about this on your podcast all the time, with how do you get to and through year 3? That is the big point. So when you're looking at these loans, this is not an SBA loan where day one you take it out, you're making full payments on it. So do you have a banking partner that is doing some sort of stair-step program so that when you're making disbursements during your project, you sign a lease, you're making payments out, they shouldn't have to be making payments until their doors are open. And then once they are, making sure that year 1 is less than year 2, is less than year 3. And the reason we do this is because you have less patience in year 1 than you will in year 2 and year 3. And then by year 4, generally you're making the full loan payment, but you're rocking and rolling, and your business is, maybe it's not where you want it to be, but it's not in stress mode. How do I continue to grow? So I think that's the biggest thing that I see that a lot of doctors don't understand, is the first question is always, hey, what is your rate today? And we talk through it, and rates have come down a little bit. They've gone up a little bit. It's been a mess, but ultimately the bigger piece of that is, if your rate's 10 basis points higher, maybe that's $20 a month or something. But ultimately, if that payment is $1,000 or $2,000 less a month in that first year than it will be moving forward, that's huge. And then really from there, making sure that you have a banking partner, yes, that can do the loan, but what is that? 3 to 5% of the relationship that you'll ultimately have, and what things once you are up and running, matter most is how are you managing the business? How are you managing expenses? How is your staff able to help with some of the banking stuff without being exposed to it all? It's little things like that. It's not that really sweet percentage rate that everybody's looking for, but those are the things that matter, and they're going to make or break a business success more than anything else, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's such a good point that you make there. And just to again echo what you just said, those first 3 years of business are the most critical. And I think picking a loan that is going to fit what is happening, just having that understanding that I'd love to say every practice is going to start out, they're $1 million practice in their first year. The reality of it is they're not. Now, do I have practices that do
Yeah, some
that?
do. Yeah.
Absolutely. But I would rather have doctors be realistic, and so would you as a business be realistic in how those numbers are going to build and know that they can make those payments. And I think having these plans that are staggered and grow with the doctor and with the business is just a really smart move in my opinion, versus just diving off the deep end and saying, yeah, I can afford this incredibly big loan right from the beginning. Yes, you'll get there, and there will come a point in your career where the last thing you're thinking about is that payment. That's just
Yep.
not where you're living. But in those first years, it definitely is where you're living as you're going into that. And that kind of takes me to something that you said, and you used the phrase long-term banking partner. And I'd love for you to unpack what how you define that, and how Bank of
Sure.
America, what you are looking for in that relationship. And I'm going to venture to say, having talked to many doctors, that's a term that they may not even know. Yeah, you could say, I've got a long-term banking partner because I've got all the student loan debt. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
that's not what we're talking about. We're
Sure.
talking about something very different. So I'm wondering if you can unpack that just a little bit for us.
Yeah. So what I mean by that is the way that the banks are doing these loans is we are taking the lien on the practice. That is our collateral.
Mhm.
So at the end of the day, if your plan is to do 2 practices or 3 practices, whatever that timeline looks like, you need to make sure there is a bank there that understands what you do and is there long term, not just, yes, on the financing piece, that they are willing and able to do 2 practices, 3 practices, or help you build one practice to as small or as big as you want it and be there to support along the way, so that they have the capabilities to do it. And then going back to, are they able to help do everything else within your business to help manage expenses, help manage disbursements going out, help manage funds coming in? There are so many things that go along with just managing the financial aspect of a practice on a daily basis, that if you don't have a bank that is able to do that really efficiently, you're losing hours during the day. You could be seeing patients, just dealing with things like that. So there's a lot more that goes into it than, hey, can I get a startup loan for 15 years at the lowest percent possible? Absolutely. Like, most banks are going to want to do that, but can they support the rest of your business once the doors open and you're getting patients in, which that's go time.
Yeah. 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 And what I'm hearing you say is it's that relationship that is there beyond just signing the loan and saying, okay, we got the loan, the disbursements are done, see you later.
Exactly.
It's having that long-term relationship where you still have somebody that you can call. You're 5 years in and you're like, you know what, that practice down the street, I think that's going to be my next play. I want to move there. And they understand your history. They already have a relationship with you. And I think it's just cutting off some of, the way I look at it, the hoops that you may have to jump
Yep.
through and getting towards whatever may be.
For sure.
Be
Yeah. And
your
the
next
service
play.
model matters too. Look, we're a big bank. And so there's thousands of divisions that we have. I handle everything for my clients. So it's that quarterback mentality of, you either have a solution or you go find it internally. But I get calls and texts all the time with questions and scenarios. And that's what it's all about, is about and having a partner, not just your banking partner, but your entire team that you can trust, that's going to be there and give you the the down and dirty of whether it's positive or negative. You need somebody to be able to give you both. And having partners like that is invaluable, especially as you're trying to figure out practice ownership.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. So I want to switch gears a little bit, and I want to talk about the loan itself and how the loan is broken out and how disbursements happen. Because I think that this is probably, if I'm going to have docs that get stressed out, this is probably where I see stress levels peak really quickly when, and just like there seems to be a lot of, seems like gray areas. I know Bank of America is not gray on this, but just in how, oh, I got approved for an $800,000 loan. Woohoo, I got 800,000
Right.
in my bank account. Nope, that's not at
Yeah.
all how that happens. So I would love it if you can talk to us about the buckets and what that looks like and what that means through a startup project, and then how disbursements happen with the loan.
Sure. Yeah. On a startup, generally we'll have some sort of a cookie cutter budget for everybody until you find the space, because ultimately what space you find is going to dictate how much money that you need.
Mm-hmm.
If you find a space that used to be an ortho practice, you're going to need significantly less money than somebody that just found an old retail space and we have to outfit it for making things happen within your practice. So on a budget of 800,000, you use that. We'll call it 450,000 of that would be set aside for tenant improvements. So all of the construction portion of it, the architects, the equipment, everything that goes in there, or the furniture, not the equipment, everything that goes in there. 250,000 towards equipment. And then you've got about 100,000 that goes towards tenant improvements. So you have three generalized buckets of money. The working capital is held on till the end, and you use that for marketing. You use that for paying staff once you get the doors open. The rest of it goes throughout the project period. And you mentioned disbursements. So loans approved, you find your space, you sign the lease. Now what? That's when the contractors kick in, and they're going to say, "Hey, I need $100,000 to get this thing started." And that's the first, what we call disbursement. Generally, throughout the life cycle of the project period is time from lease signed until you open the doors. There's anywhere from 10 to 15 disbursements, sometimes more, sometimes less, just depending again on the project. I would say the big thing and the questions to ask, again, this goes back to how is the bank helping during that? Ensuring that as an invoice comes in from a contractor, they send an invoice for $100,000. They are not starting work until they get paid for that. Mm-hmm. So do you have a team on the back end that's supporting getting that invoice, ensuring that invoice is paid same day, next day? Because again, as you're looking at, yes, rate impacts how much you're going to pay for the life of this loan, but also you spend an extra day or two getting a contractor a payment, and there are 10 to 15 payments being made. That can be a 20 to 40 day delay over the life of it. And that's lost revenue if you don't have the doors open in that time. So those are small things that nobody thinks about those, but you're the one getting calls and they're saying, "Hey, what the heck? This is taking longer than it was before." And usually it's a combination of things. But if money's not going out quickly, those are delays that are going to cost the doctor time and ultimately money.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think talking about those buckets, your construction, I think you called that improvements, the equipment, and then the working capital, thinking about what goes into each of those buckets. I know that's something I talk a lot about with my docs, because there's a lot of things that we have to pay for in a startup, and it's which bucket does that
Sure.
fit into? Because if I'm paying for my consultant, that's not construction and that's not equipment. Or I got to pay for my marketing company to make my website and get my advertising set up, this, that, or the other. That's not construction. And so I think having a good team and really talking about these things up front with your team can also help when you're working with your banker to be like, okay, I do have a consultant. I am going to be paying for a website. My architect. Okay, where does my architect fall? Like you said, it could fall in construction. Computers. I got to have computers for my office. Where does that fall? And then how do I still have working capital at the end? So, what I try and encourage my docs is to be very open with your banker about all of the different things so that they can, as you said, help keep you on track and let you know where that's going to come from. Because unfortunately, I've had some docs that have just thought, oh, I just need to pay for all of this out of my personal. And then all of a sudden, they're now skewing the money that was in their own bank account and it affects the loan. And so I don't know if you can speak to any of that or have any like beware.
And now, a word from the sponsors who make this podcast possible. Hey, docs. If you want to have a great business, the right practice management software is essential. But some can be slow, outdated, and lacking good support. That's why I recommend Greyfinch to all orthodontists. It's the fastest, most reliable, and most secure platform to grow your business and improve your efficiency. It's completely web-based, so you can run your entire practice anywhere and from any device with no servers, no downloads, or hidden fees. They even have the most helpful and responsive support team around. Right now, Greyfinch is giving a $500 discount to our listeners. Visit greyfinch.com/Jill Allen to learn more and see why it's one of the fastest growing providers in America. Hey docs, let's talk about SmileSuite, because it's not just another scheduling system. It's a game changer in the world of new patient management. And as a proud SmileSuite partner, I've witnessed the incredible impact it has on practices of all sizes. SmileSuite means your new patient calls and web leads are expertly handled 7 days a week, even during nights and weekends. And they offer top-notch customizable presentation software and seamless post-consultation follow-up. It's like having a secret weapon for your practice's success. Curious? Dive into the revolution at getsmilesuite.com. And don't forget to mention Hey Docs to unlock some extra goodies. Elevate your practice with SmileSuite, because every smile deserves a suite of excellence.
Yeah, for sure. And that's why it's so important to have these conversations, because when you and your team are involved, there are no discrepancies about what's needed, what's not needed, but not everybody chooses to go that path, and that's fine. But ultimately, being organized, the last thing anybody wants to happen is, oh, here is our budget, and now we're 2 months from opening, and I didn't let you know that I wanted this huge extravagant signage that's going to cost $40,000, and usually that comes out of a construction budget, but we're also tapped out there. So it is crucial to understand what the scope of that is, and that's part of building the team. It's part of having you and your team involved. It's having a real estate broker that really understands this, vets all of that up front so that everybody sees the vision. It's all about what the vision is, because we want to make sure we're all working towards fulfilling that vision. So it doesn't happen a ton, and we do a really good job of ensuring that there aren't any surprises, but knowing what you want it to look like up front, or at least an idea, is so important to make sure the whole process goes smoothly.
Yeah. I could not agree with you more. And you said something about construction as we were talking through that. And I definitely want to touch right now on where we're at with construction costs, because you said initially we're going to call out a certain dollar amount for construction. And you and I can both say, gosh, where we were pre-COVID and where construction costs are at and where construction costs are at now, I thought for sure we were going to have a bubble, and we were going to hit that bubble and things were going to slow down. And nope, it has not. And every time I see our construction budget costs come back, I just like my stomach sinks, because
you
it's
and me
like,
both, yeah.
Oh my gosh. And it's not that our docs are asking for crazy designs. We're designing the exact same offices that we were 8 years ago, but the costs are 30-40% higher than they were for that exact same office. And I'm wondering if you can just speak to that and the bank and kind of what the view is there. And is there anything we can be doing to help with that?
Sure. Yeah. It's interesting because 10 years ago, we're talking about a $400,000 to $450,000 total project. And now we've gone to 700. Now they seem to be pushing 800 and beyond, which is crazy. We can't control what the cost of materials are. Neither one of us can do it. I think what it boils down to for me goes back to, do you have partners that you trust that are putting you in an avenue of success? So that's you and your team, making sure, and when you guys are involved, everybody involved in the project knows what they're doing. You've got a real estate broker that understands the type of space that they need, the amount of tenant improvement allowance that they need to get back from a landlord that will help pay for that. Yeah. You've got a construction team that does ortho practices all the time. So yeah, your buddy Jim can have his own little remodel business and he's going to do it for cheap. That's great. But when Jim comes back with 10 different change orders because he doesn't understand how to do it, like, those costs add up. And the architects that we all work with that do these things. So there's only so much we can control, and the banks are doing, and us included, we're continuing to stretch what those projections and what the budgets look like. But more and more, it seems like that $400,000 to $450,000 construction budget is pushing $500,000 to $550,000, depending on the space. And so we're adjusting, but ensuring that you've got the right partners in place that are putting you in the right spot, so that you're not coming and saying, hey, I need $1 million for a startup. I'm not saying that's not the right thing, but it's certainly not the right thing for everybody. So the team makes a huge difference, because if they're doing this enough within the orthodontic space, they should know what's feasible, what's not, and how to get it done efficiently.
Yeah. And I just want to say, I hope for all of us that we hit that bubble soon, because it's ridiculous where we're at right now. And I really feel for all of you startups out there. And I see you getting beat up in the Facebook groups where people are, how could you possibly have a startup for this much money? And the reality of it is, you guys aren't doing anything wrong. It's just we've never had at lease rates higher than they've ever been before. It's ridiculous that you could almost buy a property for less money in the long run than you can to lease at this point. And the construction component is just so upside down right now. But it's where we're at, and we will all get through it. But it's a tough place. It's a tough place to be right now from the construction side. And I do appreciate that. I have watched Bank of America. I have watched you guys continue to adjust, which I think obviously says something about the bank, in that it isn't like you're putting blinders on and saying, nope, you got to get this done for 150 a square foot, when nobody out there is building at 150 a square foot. I appreciate that you guys are constantly keeping a pulse on that too, and saying, okay, we got to do our due diligence and move as we need to. So I know you and I could we could just keep going here as far as all the different things that we could be talking about. But I'm wondering, as we wrap up, if you had 3 pieces of advice that you would give our listeners, what would that look like? What would you say?
So 3 pieces of advice. Network is the first and foremost. It's never too early. There are tons of associations that you can be involved with, whether it's throughout dental school, throughout the residency program, and then obviously after. Just understand who is in your market and find the people that you really like, find the people that you don't like. And then that goes to start building your team. And it doesn't have to be solidified, but it's who are the people that you can trust, that you can go to and ask questions that will give you that true, hard, honest feedback, positive or negative. And then make sure, I think I said it earlier, make sure people know what your vision is. Everybody's vision for their practice is different, whether it's build a small, comfortable practice in your small community, or you want to build one big, huge practice and have a couple of doctors working for you, or you want to get to 2, 3, 5, 10 locations. Nothing is unreasonable, but just like anything in life, having a vision, having a goal, and making sure people know what it is and can help hold you accountable, those things are always huge.
Yeah, that's great. And as we finish up here, I did have just one thought. And if a doc is listening and they're like, yeah, this was great, and I was at that startup position, but I am now past that, but I am looking at either building my dream practice or purchasing. you guys, I just want everyone to hear, you can help with that too.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And we do that. We do that all the time. I know our focus on this is that kind of the early startup practices, but we love that. And that's part of, we want to be the partner long-term for our doctors, whether again, that's expanding their practice they already have or going into a second or third location. We love that. And I have those conversations all day long as well. And that's where understanding, hey, maybe year 2, you're not ready for it, but here are the things you need to do between year 2, year 3, or year 3 and year 4 to set yourself up to, if that's when expansion mode, you want that to happen, here's what you need to be doing between now and then to make that dream come true.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for that. I just wanted everyone to hear that even though we focused on startups, you guys are definitely there, the full package. You're gonna be able to help. And for anybody that's listening, it's worth a call. And I think that's the one thing I really appreciate you, Matt, about you, is that they can just call. You're going to give your time. You're going to give them good instruction. And like you said, it's better to plan ahead and ask those questions and be early than to be too far behind the 8 ball.
For sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. And you need somebody to strategize with. Yeah. So we do that all day, every day, just like you do.
Yeah, that's great. So if somebody wants to get a hold of you, learn more about the loan process with Bank of America, what's the best way and how can they do that?
Yeah. So cell phone number is I always have it with me. It's 636-448-8424. You can email me as well, matthew.kroeker@bofa.com.
Wonderful. All right, Matt, you know how I like to finish up Hey Docs. I always like to do a little speed round. Are you ready for the speed round challenge?
I'm ready to go.
All right, here we go. What's your go-to productivity tool?
Microsoft Outlook. My emails are my to-do list. So I'm in there all day, every day.
I love it. You probably have a really good priority system.
I do. It's pretty good. I will admit it's pretty good.
Man after my own heart there. All right. Early bird or night owl?
Early bird for sure. I try to get up. I'm up 4:30 or 5 every day. It's what fuels me.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. What was the first job that you ever had?
I had a lawn business on the side, and then I worked at my uncle's car wash throughout high school.
Perfect. All right. And then what would you say has had the most impact on your professional life?
Having a mentor or mentors early on, sharing what you want to do and finding those people that are going to support you the whole way.
Yeah, awesome. And then as we finish it up, what's the one business skill you think everyone should have?
Emotional intelligence, not getting too high, not getting too low. I try to teach my kids this too. Just even keel and take a breath. Don't react to things and find a solution.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's so key. Matthew, it's been great having you on the show. I hope to have you on again. And maybe next time we'll unpack purchasing practices or something good like that. So thank you again for taking time out. Until next time.
Thank you so much.